Great day, everyone. This is Jason Santos here, and for today, we are going to continue the discussion of marketing management. We are now on topic 6, analyzing consumer markets. So let's get started. In for our opening graphic, we have Lush Cosmetics. I don't know this personally, but they are one of the most famous brands making rounds in social media, particularly in Instagram. They are using social media and Instagram strategically to market their product. They're using several hashtags and allowing consumers to share their own stories, opinions, and customer feedback, which is a great strategy for the brand. Uh, good good experiences shared with a lot of people gives them a lot more followers and a lot more interest in their product. So to continue, um, let us try to understand what influences consumer behavior. There are plenty of factors. Like the first one is cultural factors. Second is social factors, and third will be personal factors. So let's look at these factors and then try to understand how it influences consumer behaviors. And first off, applying it to our current situation, we all know that COVID-19 has changed how consumers behave nowadays. And this has affected consumers across all spheres of life, regardless of your salary, regardless of your social class, your position. Um, Here are some of the effects. Like, for example, in work, there's a rise of unemployment. So on-the-go consumption has declined, and people work remotely. So what does that mean? People might be buying products or services that would help or aid them in their remote work. Like, for example, increased purchases for noise canceling headsets, computer peripherals like keyboards, mouse, um, webcam, and other gadgets. So that's one. And again, that's just one sphere. There are a lot. There's learning, communication and information, travel and mobility. Travel is one industry that was greatly affected by COVID-19. A lot of restaurants and hotels have closed down. Well, some restaurants are still thriving through deliveries, but hotels in particular are greatly affected. And there are several hotels in the Philippines that have already announced their temporary closure and some permanent closure. And as for the airline industry, Philippine Airlines has been laying off people for several batches already. And as sad as it sounds, it's a given, and it's a little bit expected, because the the company is not earning. There are a limited number of flights and limited number of customers availing their services. So we see the effects, and this is going to definitely affect how consumers will behave. It might be temporary, but what how I see is that it's going to affect us for a very long time. Particularly people who are still young today, people who are born, you know, um, their buying behaviors will be greatly affected by what's currently happening. So let me skip the other spheres, and then let's proceed to the next. Here are some behaviors expressed in what is being availed by the customers, like online deliveries, telemedicines or teleconsult. We have that in our insurance company, online consultation, remote working, just like what we're doing now, teaching online, learning online, remote learning, 250 million in 2 weeks, and then an increase in online entertainment. Because people cannot go to movie houses, there are no uh, movies being released, right? There are no movie releases currently. So that has affected our consumption of online entertainment and has given rise to other platforms like TikTok, Facebook, YouTube, and other social media platforms. So let's try to define what is culture. A culture is the fundamental determinant of a person's wants. Culture is the fundamental determinant of a person's wants and behaviors, acquired through socialization, processes with family and other key institutions. So we all know what's the basic definition of culture. Now, to further elaborate that, it is dependent or it is a determinant of a person's wants and behaviors. So we can assume that a person's buying patterns or buying behaviors is greatly affected by the culture the person grew up with, you know, because what they want and how they behave in terms of shopping or getting products and services is greatly affected by the culture. So, to further elaborate, let's look at some more examples here. We have subcultures like nationalities, what race do you belong, what's your religion, racial groups, geographic regions, among many things. So there are nationalities who are rich. They have a lot of means to buy. So definitely that is a factor. We also have religions, religions, which we will delve a little bit deeper shortly, is also a determinant, of buying behaviors. There are some religions that promote certain products and prohibit some products, right? Race and ethnicity is, of course, definitely a factor, and particularly the geographic region. Like some products will be availed in some areas because it is a need based on their geography. Like if you're located in an area of frequent hot temperature or cold temperature, those are definitely going to be determining factors on what you will buy, right? So going back, cultural differences. U.S. is one of the world's more future-oriented countries, and people there value being busy and living their lives at fast pace. So by contrast, France is a much more present-oriented culture, and this seems to underpin the value it places on living when in the moment, such as taking a proper lunch break. So in the US, because most of them are workaholics, it's pretty much common for them to eat while working, you know, or take a working lunch, right? In the Philippines, we value taking a proper lunch break. That's why some services are closed during lunchtime and they resume after lunch break, right? Also, cultural prohibitions. Again, what we have. mentioned earlier, um, against consuming products like alcohol or meat. Like, for example, if you're a Muslim, you're only allowed to eat um, halal certified meat, right? If it's not halal, you cannot eat it. Um, Also, the style and preference of clothing, you know, for again, a good example would be Muslims. Their style of clothing is very much different with the rest of the world, right? So that is pretty much a determinant of what they would purchase, like what they would buy, and a key factor in understanding their buying patterns. So here, just by looking at people's food alone, you can see great disparity, and it will give you an idea what people would be buying, right? Like what's a typical American food, like fries, pizza, burger, waffles, and you have Mexican food who likes to eat vegetables, salsa, um, spices, tortillas, tacos, etc. And then for Chinese, you have noodles, you have some vegetables, and some meat. Okay, and then of course for Filipino people, here are some of the food that we normally consume. So the reason I'm showing you this is because food is also a clue as to what people would be buying, right? So for example, if people are more prone on eating hot and spicy food, of course, um, a typical beverage would be required in eating, you know. So Mexicans are heavy consumers of beverage while they're eating food, you know, because it's uh it's because of what they eat. They eat hot and spicy foods, right? While for Americans, when they eat a lot, and in order for them to digest these foods, they would normally take either coffee or um, sometimes when they are, you know, just eating for relaxation and just wanting to feel full, they would couple this with a soft drinks, right? That's why obesity is a common issue or a disease in the United States. So these things, and we're looking in food alone, gives you an idea how people of different nations, geographies, consume their food, and of course would directly link to their buying behaviors. Okay. Another good example of cultural differences is when you are buying a motorbike. Like in the West, in America and other Western countries, when they buy motorbikes, they tend to use it for their personal use and just for an individual use. Okay, ultimately an individual product. And they use it as a reward for their individualistic needs. Okay, so again, my keyword here is individual. So what I'm trying to point out is that when you buy a motorbike, it's common and understood that you you wouldn't allow or you wouldn't accommodate back rides because this vehicle is just for you. Unlike some countries in Asia, and I'm speaking of Philippines, Thailand, and even India, when you buy a motorcycle here, it's expected that you are going to use it um, for a ride and for your commute. And what that means is that you would have multiple people taking back rides. Okay, Sometimes you have two or three, no? Minsan dalawa or tatlo pa ngayon nakaangkas. So that's just not common in Western. And you can see the difference between two nations having two purpose for a motorbike. Okay? So yeah. Another factor in Filipino culture is that Filipino consumers love to buy things which are on sale. So yeah, Filipinos like products on sale or products which would give an impression of savings or discount. Okay. In many cases, family members, friends, and colleagues are the usual influencers to Filipino consumers. They usually listen to advice of people around them in choosing the brand that will suit their needs and wants. And Filipinos are among the most socially conscious consumers in the world. 86% of Filipinos are willing to pay extra for products and services that come from companies committed to positive social and environmental impact. So it's also common for us Filipinos to um, commit, you know, to positive and social and environmental impact. Like for example, if this business has made it vocal that proceeds of their sale would go to a certain charity, we tend to gravitate to that as compared to other countries. Also, younger consumers have a say and help drive considerable growth of internet and mobile internet retailing. So a lot of younger consumers nowadays they control on the direction of buying, shopping, and most of them, or most of us rather, are fond of shopping online. You know, that's why it's a monthly thing now in the Philippines. Like for Shopee and Lazada, uh, there are sales for certain dates, like if it's January 1, February 2, March 3, December 12, uh, so on and so forth. It's a common it's a common event for Filipinos. Here's also an example of the use of nationalities and subcultures in marketing, like what David's bridal is doing. In Latin countries, they have this um, tradition of putting emphasis in the 15th birthday of their daughter. It's also called the quinceanera event, the quinceanera birthday. Thus, they prepare heavily, uh, and one of the key things is the gown. You know, it's like having a debut here in the Philippines at the age of 18 for women. So in the Western countries, sorry, Latin countries, it's 15, and they expect it to be um an extravagant event. Like they would really spend on that. And this has been used by some businesses, and David's Bridal is an example of that. Although they are making gowns for um, your typical weddings, they have targeted certain demographics and certain ages, which is the 15-year-old Latin American consumer. Okay. For Americans, in terms of culture, the average American chews 300 sticks of gum a year. That's the reason why they are really into different brands of chewing gums. They go to movies 9 times a year. That's the average. Um, that's why several theaters in the US, or most of the theaters in the US, are already in IMAX before lockdown. They take trips 4 times a year and attend sporting events 7 times each year. So they're very big when it comes to sports like the National Football League, NBA, the Baseball League, and hockey. So these things also affect the behaviors of the customers. Sporting events in particular, their sporting idols would encourage them to buy several things from footwear to apparel to tickets, subscriptions, many things, you know. And the way they treat sporting events, it's like it's a family event, family and friends event. They would rent a box or a certain area in a stadium where friends and family members can bond together while they're watching their favorite team play. Okay, so that's for American culture, and those things are factors in how they decide to buy. Okay, social classes are consisting of several parts. Like, yeah, we have upper uppers, lower uppers, upper middles, middle class, working class, upper lowers, and lower lowers. And this is a further delineation on what we already know, which is just the lower class, the middle class, and the upper class. So what this means is that for those general classes, there are still different um, tiers or different levels. Like, for example, in the upper class, you can see that there are three parts in the upper class: the upper upper, the lower upper, and the upper middles. And this is getting to be very specific. You know? So if you are running a business, what this means to you is that if I'm targeting upper middles, my marketing effort should be directed towards to them, not towards the upper uppers. What this means is that the effort I have for upper uppers cannot be applied to lower uppers or upper middles. It means that I have to be very specific with what kind of strategy I will be using for certain social classes. Now here we can see a pyramid showing the different classes for the Filipino people. So you could see that the majority of the pyramid consists of lower class, very few upper class, and slightly higher middle class. What this means is that mostly Filipinos are living on a day-to-day budget, um, around 11,773 uh, annual per capita. So that's a very low amount, to be honest. And you can see that in the way we consume products, you know. We buy mostly our goods, the goods that we buy are in very small servings like coffee sticks, one sachet of shampoo, one sachet of toothpaste, a very small soft drink, you know, because that's the only budget that we have, you know. And businesses match the offerings to the needs and the capacity of the people to pay what they can afford or what we can buy. And these things, again, are determinants for businesses, and a factor that must be continuously looked upon. but because if you would compare this with other countries, like for example US, uh, in that country everything is big, you know, big soft drinks, big toothpaste, bigger shampoo bottles, big coffee containers. You know, everything is big in in the United States, as they say. So that's just an example of differences geographically and social classes available in each geography. So social classes, within a class, people tend to behave alike. So when you are in the middle class, people in that certain class tend to behave alike, and that applies regardless of the class. Social class conveys perceptions of inferior or superior position, and class may be indicated by a cluster of variables: occupation, income, wealth, and class designation is mobile over time. So that wraps up my discussion for today. I hope you have learned something. And as always, feel free to follow me on all the social media platforms I'm in. And for more videos like this, please check out my playlists. And thank you so much. God be all the glory till our next video.